Welcome to the Self-Made Life podcast, the show for creative entrepreneurs who are building their dream business and life on their terms. I'm your host, Ashley Wyatt, designer, entrepreneur, mama of two, and founder of the Monarch Design Co. And I believe success isn't handed to you, you create it. Here, we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to run a business, the wins, the lessons, and the messy in between. Whether you're scaling your side hustle during nap time, redefining your brand, or ready to take your business full time, this show is your go-to for honest conversations, practical strategies, and inspiration to help you grow with confidence. Because being self-made isn't about doing it alone. It's about building a life and business that feels as good as it looks. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Self-Made Life podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Wyatt from the Monarch Design Co. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to honor and remember someone. This conversation was recorded earlier this year with my past client, Chris Deir, a soulful, kind, and deeply genuine human being. I had the privilege of working with Chris on his branding and website. He brought such depth and perception to everything he did. I feel truly lucky to have known him even for a short time. I was deeply saddened to learn of his recent and tragic passing. It's really hard to put into words, but when I work with my clients, I'm not just creating a logo or a website. I'm getting to know them on a deeper level so that I can truly share your story in an authentic way that feels real and true. This was someone who lived with intention and so much heart, a wonderful soul gone far too soon. This episode is shared in loving memory of Chris. May his words and story continue to impact and inspire. Welcome back to the Self-Made Life podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Wyatt from Monarch Design Co. And today I have a very special guest with me. We have Chris from Chris Deir Coaching. He was a past client of mine, and I am just so excited to hear more about his entrepreneurial journey and where it's taken him so far. He is currently sitting in a beautiful space in Mexico. So love that for him, especially as it has warmed up here and the snow is melting. So that is a plus, but beautiful change of scenery for sure. Before we get started though, we're going to do what we like to call a boss or bust. So sharing something that you're proud of, or maybe something that didn't quite go as planned this week. So Chris, do you have a boss or bust for us?
I do. First of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity. I have a boss. It's in the potential right now, but I'm in the process of launching an in-person workshop here in Mexico, where I'm staying in San Miguel de Allende. The target is to have that in May. It's going to be a one-day workshop where we explore ideas from depth psychology, archetypal psychology, and Jungian psychology, but it's ultimately going to be an interactive workshop where people will have the opportunity to guide them through some exercises, and in the process, they'll learn some things about themselves that they didn't know, tap into their unconscious a little bit, into the shadow, and connect with themselves on a deeper level. So I'm looking forward to that.
I love that. And also an opportunity to explore that area, right? And meet new people.
Yes. Yeah, that's big for me. I think nothing can replace that human connection when it comes to growing a business, especially as a solopreneur, making those connections, having human contact, uh, allowing people to see you and to know you and to know the work you do is irreplaceable. So it's also an opportunity for me as well to get out there in person and share what I have to offer with the world outside of the typical one-on-one coaching container that I.
hmm And I find too, in my experience doing group workshops, it really leads you to meet other people that you were meant to meet. And, other opportunities arise from that. And you never know where those opportunities will take you. So I love that.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. You never know what you're going to expect.
Yeah. I'm going to share a boss moment. So I mean, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. It's always up or down. And I felt like I was planning for this maternity leave for quite some time now. And now that we're here and my due date has been pushed back, I'm kind of finding myself like, okay, what am I going to do with my time before baby comes? So I've just been really plugging away on content and getting myself set up for when I return. And it's one of those things where client work always comes first. And yeah, I have the space and time in my schedule to really work on the business and in the business rather than, on other projects too. So I've wrapped up a lot of projects. I have a couple, this week, and maybe next week, but those have tentative backup dates just in case. But yeah, it is nice to kind of get things off of my to-do list that have kind of taken a backseat for some time.
Yeah. Can imagine the tension and challenge of being in a time of transition and wanting to at least have some structure and stability in how things are set up going into it, what are knowing that things are going to change and you're not going to be as as available.
Yeah. I mean, my first maternity leave, I initially planned for 1 month off and ended up taking 3. And I mean, that was all new to me. I, found myself home with a newborn and didn't really know what to do. But this time around, I do feel more confident and I have the support of my husband and my in-laws around. So I don't know how long I'm going to take. I did plan for 3 months, but I mean, they sleep a lot in the beginning, so I'll probably take like maybe 4 to 6 weeks off. We'll see.
Okay, yeah, it's cool to see how things evolve with experience.
Yeah.
It's good to hear you have some support.
Yeah, yeah, no, it'll all be fine. So we worked together last year on your branding and your website, but tell us and our audience who you are, what you do, and your story into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So my name is Chris Deir, and I am the principal and owner of Chris Deir Soul Advocacy Coaching. I like to call it Soul Advocacy because, the term life coaching gets thrown around so often, and it could be very abstract. Um, but the kind of clients that I work with tend to be going through a period of transition in their life, professionals and creatives, adults typically around mid-age, but not exclusively. Um, the work I do is really helping people navigate through times where the old way of being hasn't been working for them. They're going through a difficult time. They don't quite recognize themselves or don't quite feel at home in their lives. There's an internal tension going on and they feel some kind of stuckness and they're looking for guidance. So, so the work that I do is helping people connect with their inner world through dialogue as well as some exercises that really help the client connect with their soul and understand what the soul's desires is or what direction their soul is wanting them to take in the next chapter of their life. So it's a whole process that it involves. I like to refer to it as having 3 steps, which are kind of cyclical. They don't only go in this specific order, but generally it's to recognize what's going on, to bring consciousness to their inner and outer reality, and to understand the connection between the two. Like, why is this showing up in my life right now? But let's not just look at the external, let's look at the external to understand the internal as well. And the other 2 stages are to accept which sounds really easy, but is I find one of the most challenging stages for myself and in my experience working with clients. And the third one is to improve. So once we recognize where we're at and the gap between where we're at and where we want to go, and we've accepted our current state, then it finally creates a place internally in our psyche to then start working on improving. So that's the work I do. And typically it's one-on-one coaching in a coaching container, but I also starting to venture into doing more group work as well. And yeah, that's before I moved into coaching, I had a whole journey that took me to working in corporate finance, to being a consultant, to being an entrepreneur in a partnership setting in real estate and development. So I've kind of been through the whole gambit. And in fact, coming to my own vocation, which is doing this soul advocacy work, has been through my own kind of midlife wake up call and questioning what an authentic life really looks like for me and getting really honest with myself. So that's a whole story in and of itself, but that was the impetus to go deeper with getting training in this line of work and putting myself out there as a Jungian coach and, as I like to say, a soul advocate.
That was kind of like my next question was like, how did you get started with coaching? And that was through your own experience of being coached. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a little bit more to it. Um, it's funny because I've often struggled for some time with this question of like, what is my calling or what am I here to do? And, up until I would say um, my late 20s, my focus was more around getting a good job, something with prestige, something with good pay. But I always felt this kind of tension within me as if I wasn't where I was supposed to be on my path professionally and on other levels as well, not just professionally, but definitely vocation and how I show up in the world and how I show up in my service was always something that was important to me. It was a value that I held really as a priority. And yeah, I started working with career consultants and the same thing kept coming up over and over. And I constantly kind of pushed it aside, coaching, consulting is perfect for me, my personality and my interests and my skill set. And I didn't feel ready at the time for different reasons. One of the reasons I didn't feel ready was because I didn't just want to show up as a coach. I wanted to really have some more life experience and maturity and integration under my belt, sort to say, before feeling comfortable enough to be in a position of guiding others. And yeah, I was working um, in a full-time job and I was volunteering as well at a school of philosophy in a classical manner, where the education was very much around what does it mean to be a human being and more of an education of the soul connected to virtues and studying different um, wisdom traditions from antiquity, which I love. I love philosophy and I love learning timeless and universal teachings that different traditions and different faiths have in common. Because for me, that really gets to the essence of what it means to be a human being. But even volunteering at that organization, I was there for 10 years. I got quite involved. And I was still feeling this tension, On the outside, I thought I had all the boxes checked. At least I thought I did. But I was feeling resentful. My energy was low. Things were just not flowing for me. And even I noticed my dream world was starting to kind of show me kind of symbols around where I was at and where my soul wanted me to go. So just starting to pay attention to those clues and how life was talking to me, how life and the wisdom of life was trying to guide me. And I took some small steps. I enrolled in a program to become trained as a Jungian coach. I ended up leaving that organization where I was volunteering. Although I gained a lot of value from it, it was time to move on. I ended up at the time as well leaving a relationship that I thought was the perfect match for me and kind of, holding on to that fantasy of this is it. As long as once this is kind of once this comes together, that's it. I don't have to worry about being alone or what the future holds for me. Kind of this, idealist kind of hope and holding on to that expectation. But a lot of that just fell away. I mean, it was like my psyche, which is the Greek word for soul. It was as if my soul, my psyche was telling me, no, actually, this is not where you're meant to be and what you're meant to be doing. So I noticed taking those small steps started making a difference. I got a little bit more involved in men's work. I enrolled in a coaching training program. I did some mentorship work with young men as well. I enrolled in martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specifically. So I just went through this exploration phase to be more playful with myself in life and try to find where there was resonance, like what's feeding me, what's feeding my soul, and what if I just take a little step forward in this direction? I feel like this is where I'm being called. So it's like following the breadcrumbs, and with each step I took forward, I felt more myself. I felt more in authenticity with my path and my true sense of self. And it continues. I mean, it's ongoing, but that was the journey. I was really reluctant to be like, yeah, I'm going to be a coach. It really took me about 5 years to finally get to this point to say, yeah, this is my vocation, and I'm going to really put more resources and take a risk on this and take it seriously.
Yeah, I think, it's incredible the courage that you took to get to where you are today. And that's the thing about entrepreneurship. It's not a straight and narrow path, right? You're taking the path
Yes.
less followed. You're, listening to that inner voice, like there must be something more for me out there and kind of exploring, that new direction, even if it's not the traditional get that perfect paying job, find your partner, step by step,
Yeah.
right? Like you,
Check.
yeah. So that's incredible. And I just love hearing your story.
Thank
And
you.
I've heard some of your story before, but I think it
Yes.
will really resonate with a lot of listeners, especially entrepreneurs, and maybe even give other people out there the courage to explore a different path, and take that leap of faith like you did, and like many other entrepreneurs too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Ashley.
You're welcome. So, tell our audience a little bit more about Jungian coaching and what makes that style of coaching different than the traditional, I guess, like life coaching.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll say what Jungian coaching in its core essence focuses on and what makes it unique from other forms of coaching. And there are some other forms of coaching that have some similar approaches, but this one is unique in that it starts with the premise, I would say, in my own words, starts with the premise that there is an intelligence to life and that there's also life and our soul is constantly communicating to us in different forms. And it communicates to us in a symbolic way. So it's not so much to take things literally, but to look at the symbolic significance of what's showing up in our lives. And those symbolic expressions can take on many different forms. For example, physical symptoms, psychosomatic symptoms, digestive issues, pain, skin challenges with our skin, all kinds of things can be pointing to something going on within our psyche, within our psychic world. Our dream world is constantly communicating to us symbolically about what's going on in our internal reality. And sometimes it could just be pointing to where we are. Sometimes it could be pointing to where we're heading. So dreams is, we could have a whole show just about dreams, but that's also another form of intelligence that Jungian coaches will pay attention to try to understand what's going on for the client and where their soul wants them to go. And there's many others, like for example, just our relationships or what's showing up for us externally in our jobs, in our careers, again in our relationships. What does the external situation say about ourselves? What patterns are showing up? What patterns, in a sense, are controlling or leading our lives? And additionally, a key thing about Jungian coaching is understanding like what's happening to us on an unconscious level. So when we say unconscious, just really simply on a personal level, it's the things that we're not consciously aware of for different reasons. One of which could be that it's just something that we've taken on as a pattern in order to survive in a social setting, in our family setting, to feel safe. And in the process, we may have taken on certain patterns like people pleasing patterns, or maybe the opposite extreme of being very domineering and controlling as a protection. This can show up in all sorts of different patterns, but it's by looking at the communication of what um, the intelligence of our psyche. I like to use the word psyche and soul interchangeably, but what our psyche is trying to communicate to us, what our world is trying to communicate to us, and even things that seem random to us. In the Jungian world or the world of depth psychology, we call it synchronicities. So things that are typically unlikely to happen, but tend to happen in a time where they line up with just where we happen to be in our life and reflect back to us kind of information or validation of where we are in our path. It could be a chance encounter. It could even be other symbolic representations like certain images or archetypes like animal encounters showing up at specific times in your life that in the same way where they might mean something in your dream world could also symbolically mean something in your waking world, in your everyday lives. So the process is just, starting with where is the client stuck as usual and where do they want to go? And then starting to help and guide the client to do this for themselves as well. As a coach, what I'm really trying to achieve is to help my clients develop a more symbolic understanding, a more symbolic comprehension of like what shows up for them, and to start to take those things a little bit more seriously. Just see what happens, like get curious. And I love this sense of exploration and play that that comes online when we start to become curious and explore, like, start journaling our dreams and, starting to ask ourselves, I wonder why this is showing up for me now, or what does this symbol mean, or, all sorts of crazy things that can show up in our dream world.
I I love that. And I've been having really vivid, wild dreams since being pregnant. I guess that's just one of the things that happens. But I do wish that I like journaled things down to kind of like make sense of everything. But I love that you work with your clients to help guide them through that deeper work, because I feel like that deeper work is where people start to like uncover a lot of things. Do you find that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really at the core of my work is this philosophy that if we address problems and challenges only at a superficial level, they're going to keep coming up in different forms. But if we get to the heart of it, which is really a process about taking ownership for what's showing up for us and trying to understand, not necessarily with guilt or shame, but with a healthy sense of responsibility to understand, like, what is my role in this circumstance? Whether you feel like a victim or a perpetrator in both respects. And it's a very delicate work as well, of course, with holding people and creating a container of trust and safety, um, which is fundamental. Because I'll add this one point about the magic of the coaching container, which is the coaching container itself is really where the magic happens. It's really odd because I'll have a client, for example, where we'll start working through something and I'll start to know them a little bit better. And, you know, as we come up to the next session, I'll be like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to take them. This is what I think they need. And then we're in the coaching container. Things are organic, things are moving, and certain word is shared or a certain emotional reaction comes out for a reason unknown. And I just get curious around that and we explore what shows up. So it's very fluid and fun in that respect. But as a coach, for me at least, it's really important to create a safe place and a place where the client and myself, as partners in this process, feel safe to go deep and to have that confrontation with self, which can really be scary, can be something we've been avoiding out of fear, the fear of the unknown, of the prospect of things changing and not knowing what the future might look like if we do change, you know? And sometimes, as the saying goes, the devil we know is better than the devil we don't. It's like, you know, even if our patterns are destructive, they're familiar and they're comfortable. So it's really important to create a safe container, and I find that already does in a really mysterious and odd way, like 70% of the work.
How long are your coaching containers typically with your clients?
Yeah, typically on average, there are 6 1-hour sessions. And of course, offer all anyone that's interested in exploring this further a pre-discovery call where we spend about 40 minutes to an hour just exploring what's showing up for them and getting a feel if we're a right fit. But once we get into the actual one-on-one work in a more formal setting, it's typically 6 sessions. Um, that tends to be where where we start, and I find that with 6 sessions, it's really um, a good structure or a good duration for going through that process of recognizing, bringing more consciousness to like, okay, what's going on for you? How's this impacting your life? Exploring patterns, exploring what's behind that, and the next 2 steps of acceptance and improvement. That less than 6 sessions, you do start to have more insights and more self-awareness. Definitely is manageable in less than 6, but really that getting into the transformation and integration where the change becomes more lasting tends to take about 6 sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, I find like the longer you work with a coach, the more you're able to uncover and kind of like reach those goals that you've set out to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I literally just had a coaching call with my coach earlier today, and we
Cool.
had been working together, I think, since like last summer. And it's a 1 year container. And it was incredible just to like see like, wow, like I'm at my goals of like what we set out from the beginning, even though it looked very different than the trajectory and like the path that we thought. It was like really eye-opening. So it's definitely important to trust the person that you are working with and feel supported. So I love that
Yes,
support your clients like that too.
absolutely. I love that. How have I'm just curious on your end, like what is it about coaching that has helped you beyond if you were to just do research online or read something in a book or try to do it on your own? What do you find for you that's most impactful?
I find that working with someone who has gone to where I want to be
Mm,
has sped up the process significantly for me to
yeah.
get there. And like this coach that I'm working with now, it's funny how you mentioned like synchronicities and stuff because there's just so many crazy synchronicities with my coach and I, like her life, like, the last 6 months, and like even where she was a year or two ago, kind of like similar parallels to like what I'm going through now, too, like with my business and in my personal life. So it's really cool to kind of see and just to have that extra layer of support too and get to where I want to go quicker. Not necessarily quicker, but like I feel like as entrepreneurs, we can really get into our own head and it can be a very lonely journey. So having
Yeah.
just like that sounding board of support and feeling like seen and heard and supported without any judgment and fully trusting that person um, is just so like beneficial.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great answer. Definitely. And was, as you said, was somebody that's taken those steps really adds some deeper sense of credibility and integrity in
Yeah.
the guidance that they give you. I think that's really important too. I agree.
Yeah. And I think following your intuition and your inner guidance on who to work with too. At the time, she was not really marketing, and I had met her through this random online masterclass thing years prior. And I don't know, I just felt drawn to this person. I ended up listening to a lot of her podcast episodes. We voice noted back and forth, and I just felt it was a hell yes. And I just felt very drawn. And I'm so glad that like I took that step because I've worked with other coaches in the past and maybe we were in alignment then, but just in this season of my life, I just needed someone who understood where I wanted to go, but also could relate to personal life too, of running a
Mm,
business, raising a family, doing multiple things, and the type of business too. So, yeah, I think it's very important if you're feeling drawn to working with someone, there's something there, and definitely get on a call or chat with them more or explore their world more. And if it's pulling you closer, then definitely
yeah.
something to explore, right?
Yes. I love that, following like the synchronicities and the resonance and trusting that, at least to explore a little bit further. Because I think what you said about as entrepreneurs, we can get stuck in our head. It's absolutely true in my experience. It could be a real stumbling block. And it's really empowering once we begin to connect to our own sense of intuition and inner guidance to follow like where we're feeling called or where we feel that there's resonance and just following like where the energy is flowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Has that been a big part of it? Has that been a big part of your experience as an entrepreneur? Like having those moments where just tune into either synchronicities or just, yeah, I feel something about taking this direction or working with this person, or I have a bad feeling about working with this person. How has that factored into your own entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a muscle. You have to exercise it to be more in tune with it.
Hmm.
And I'm a really big believer in having a morning routine. My morning routine is not what it used to be pre-kids. Setting aside designated like 30 minutes when you first wake up to do a meditation and do some journaling. And I'm a big believer of like writing out what I'm grateful for and what I'm working on manifesting. And even through meditation, like I did um, like a visualization meditation and I wrote it all down. and I've actually recorded myself speaking it out. And it's funny because now, a couple months later, I'm living that reality. It's really cool to see, but you have to kind of like be consistent to be in tune with it.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's like a muscle, you have to work it. Yeah, I agree. And I love your point about starting your day off well, starting it off with some kind of like ritual to get centered and to get clear about the direction you want to take for the day, as well as, yeah, taking stock through gratitude. You know, that feeds us in a mysterious way, like when we take stock and despite all the challenges and the heaviness, to recognize all the blessings we have. Um, there's a power there that feeds us and gives us energy to keep going forward.
Yeah, it literally changes your brain chemistry. It's really cool.
It's so powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
We recently worked together on your branding and your website. And since then, how has your experience been with that and how are things going? I know when we worked together, you were in the GTA and you were leaving for, I think, Greece, and now you're in Mexico. You're living the digital nomad life.
Yeah.
Catch me up on all of that.
Yeah. So there's, there's a few different ways to approach that. But I'll start with the branding piece because I feel like working with you and going through the process of getting clear on my branding and building out the website really helped me to get more clarity around how I want to show up, the messaging, my offering, and even the colors and the feeling of my website and my brand and my logo. Um, really, in a way, was starting to flesh out the idea of the venture that I wanted to grow, which gave me a certain sense of confidence for sure. Gave me a lot of confidence in that respect to show up and to be like, "Hi, I'm Chris Deir. I'm a Jungian coach," and also to give me the feedback to on a website or to see it on a logo and have that reflected back to me. Like, what does this say about me? Is this authentic with how I want to show up? And so going through that process of getting clarity was really rich and fruitful for me. Yeah, and then, the whole process. Well, in fact, the timing, to go back to what you mentioned about my trip, I was just, I was in the process of completing my training. I was in the process of completing my website and my branding as I was planning to go on this 2 month trip to mainly to Greece. And I spent a week in Rome as well. It was an amazing trip. I had a chance to visit different ancient sites and spiritual sites from ancient Greece. So powerful, and even some sites from just a few hundred years ago, like Meteora, which is really beautiful, has these monasteries built on these mountains. That's really something really beautiful. Just the landscape. I really enjoyed Greece. I spent a lot of time in Crete as well, and did a road trip around the mainland of Greece. But the timing was interesting because I was doing this transition as I was coming into this next chapter of really launching this vocation, this career as a coach. So, in a sense, I was getting time to be with myself, to reflect, to feed my soul, and to be inspired by these beautiful countries and places in Greece and Italy. And it wasn't in vain. I think, on some subtle level, it was also contributing to my practice as a coach. And it was also a challenge too, because I was so hungry I need to get all these things done as soon as possible. And, being patient with myself was a real challenge at the start, which I think is something a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. And in fact, it can often unfortunately can lead to burnout. So having, breathing a little bit, enjoying the Mediterranean, it really fed me. And sure enough, when I came back to Canada, to Toronto, I was right back at it. I need to move this along. I need to get started. I need to get my packages defined and get them up and reach out to my network and get more clients and all that stuff. And that was really like about a month and a half of being in Canada and then just being, in a way, kind of swept off my feet and sent, not sent, I shouldn't say that, pulled and called to Mexico. It was part of my plan was to, yeah, embrace a little bit more of the digital nomad lifestyle to support me in taking on an entrepreneurial venture, which, as people know, it's not easy. It takes investment, it takes time, and it takes time to start earning back the kind of income you might be making in a corporate job, for example, and supporting your cost of living. So part of the decision was financial, but part of the decision was also around lifestyle, being in a culture and a place where um, there's there's life, there's culture, people are engaged with each other. It's not all about work. It's not all about just professional life, which I find in North America is very amplified. And in a way, being here, it's been a challenge because it's been an adjustment. I'm learning Spanish. I'm not fluent at all. I'm kind of still at a beginner's level, but I'm taking classes on a regular basis. But even just being in the culture, a new language, a new environment, it really stretched me. And in a way, it's also helped me as a coach to create my own container in my life, my daily life, of learning resilience, of learning adaptability, of learning acceptance, of learning patience, and also learning to be more receptive to beauty and to be more curious about what is new or what is unknown and to come into a more receptive and healthier relationship with the unknown. So it's interesting. I think travel can really have a lot of subtle benefits, especially if we immerse ourselves in a culture and a place for an extended period of time. Yeah, so and now I'm back at it, reaching out and seeing more people, planning workshops, and feeling a little bit more settled these days, which is nice. Yeah,
Good. Yeah. No, it definitely like broadens your horizons and like enriches your experiences, right? To take
yeah,
that forward into your practice.
absolutely. Yeah,
I really think that a lot of this will resonate with our listeners, especially if they're on the fence of where to go and, what to do next, and maybe nervous about taking that leap and, just taking a step back and pausing and really listening to your intuition. And you never know until you try, right? And I think, like you said, going into this, you've learned a lot along the way. You have really gained the confidence to get started, and you're taking a pause, not really a pause, but you're slowing down to kind of like appreciate the journey too, it sounds like, because
yeah,
you don't want to burn out because
right.
I don't recommend that. I've done that, and I'm sure a lot of other entrepreneurs have too. But through that process of taking a step back and really looking at things, you're probably realizing, "Well, maybe I don't want to do that, or maybe I want to focus on this, or let's explore that." And that's really shaping you and your business and your offerings for your clients, right?
Yeah, I love the way you put that. It's about taking a pause, or more like taking stock, being present, And because it's so easy to get swept away from the inertia, or swept away by the external demands of life, and just how quickly time feels like it's just going by, and we're feeling stuck in a routine, almost as if we don't have any agency in our life. And it's so ironic and funny in a way how it almost feels like it's not safe, or it's not the right move to slow down or pause, because we have so many things to do. There's so much to do, so much to get done, which is understandable, of course. But it's amazing how slowing down just for a moment, finding a little space in your day. I love what you said about starting off your day right, because that's a great example of doing that. And it's amazing how that little bit of presence within a day can really help to orientate or reorientate oneself on their path, and to really take agency of their life again. To be a partner in that conversation with life. So it's not just life dragging me around like I'm on this current of a river without a paddle, but it's the river, it's the current, but it's also my boat, it's my consciousness, it's my presence, it's my paddle, it's the northern star that I can look to for direction. But when we lose sight of those things, it's understandable how we can feel like we're just being swept away by life.
Yeah, I love that analogy. So well spoken as always. And I'm excited for you to start your podcast too. I know that that's kind of like in the works and on the back burner, but
Yes,
I
thank
think
you.
it'll be incredible. So cheering you on
Thank you
for
so
that.
much, Ashley. Thank you for your support.
You're welcome. Before we end things off, I love to do a little rapid fire this or that. So I'm going to say like two different things, and you're going to just say which one
I
resonates.
love it. All right.
Okay. City or country?
Country,
Mountains or beach?
mountains,
Early bird or night owl?
early bird.
Coffee or tea?
That's so tough. First thing that comes to mind is coffee, but I feel like I should say tea. Yeah, that's my own inner conflict. Okay, keep going.
Tacos or sushi?
Tacos. Come on, I'm in Mexico.
Books or movies?
Books.
Call or text?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Love that. Before we sign off, tell us where can our listeners find you online and connect with you?
Yeah, so right now there's primarily two channels. One is my website, which you've so beautifully designed for me, and that is at Chris Deir, my name, last name Deir, so chrisdeir.ca. And I'm also on Instagram, not very active, I have to admit, but I'm working on it, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
I will link all of those in the show notes. So if you are looking to explore deeper and are feeling called and pulled to work with Chris, definitely reach out. He is just a wealth of knowledge, and I'm really excited for him to continue on his entrepreneurial journey and just really help support his clients with the wealth of knowledge that he has.
Thank you, Ashley. It was really
Thank
fun
you.
being on, and thank you for the opportunity.
Of course, happy to have you. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today on the Self-Made Life podcast. If you loved this episode, share it with a friend, leave a review, or hit follow so that you never miss an episode. Want to work together or grab some free resources? You can always find me over at www.themonarchdesign.co/podcast. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep building, and go create your self-made life.